That's my request. So we're going to move to the next. I'm not seeing any other requests for clarity or any comments. So let's move to the item number 6, fiscal year 2019 budget request.
Okay, so the key takeaway from this is we loaded the backup documentation from the last board meeting where we grouped and then identified the priorities by way of the process, the motions that you took last month. Just a key takeaway, a few more takeaways from this, or brief by exception. Between the last board meeting and this one, and Natalie can jump in on here too, we've settled on the enrollment growth at about 1.2% as part of the CDC process, right, Natalie? Yeah? No? Okay. And so we'll be changing that number because that enrollment growth back then was an estimate of 2% is about 70 million. So we'll be adjusting that number going forward. The LFAs and the GOMB are part of the Common Data Committee, so they're aware of this too, so no surprises or anything like that. So that 70 million will come down a little bit to more, well, to match what the 1.2% is and that amount. So the other key takeaways here too is I did get a question on the grouping. So if you look at group number 4, which is the program for LEAs, we went 1 through 9 on there too. So it's not necessary that we can pretty much figure out that, you know, leeway guarantee programs, special education intensive services are 10, 11, Canvas being 12. We'll need to work with Representative Elison a little more on the Safe UT app, or his, you know, desires to expand on that program. So that's fine. You know, we can do that as part of the legislative process when we get to that point. Again, I did talk to Jacob Wright in the GOMB yesterday just to make sure that we were on track and everything went well with the process. He said it did. They have a few questions though, and they're going to talk to us next week, us being myself, the superintendent, Phil Dean, and Jacob. And then possibly Kristen Cox as well at a meeting next week. So we're looking forward to that. The USDB steps and lanes, it's in category or group 3. That 969,700 will change. We had some great back and forth with the staff at USDB and calculation, all that, and we've arrived at that number should be around 907,000 for the steps and lanes. So that'll be a slight adjustment. The business case was sent in. It is what it is. But we'll adjust the business case to reflect the new calculated amount. Get that up. This is steps and lanes is by code anyway, so that's all part of the legislative process. But there'll be an update on that number as well. So, Chair, subject to any questions by you or the board members, that concludes the state fiscal year 19 update.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Yes, Board Member Belknap.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make mostly an observation on this, that I so appreciate, Scott, you and your staff, that you would take the time to look at the USDB, their request, and make the adjustments, sure, which actually went down. But if it would have gone up, I think that would have been appropriate as well. But thank you.
Yeah, one team. Oh, go.
Oh. Vice Chair Brittany, comments?
We still have the Canvas item on here, which I'm fine to leave it for now, but I would be very curious to look into this to see if, you know, we talk a lot about wanting to have as much opportunity in the WPU, but also having, if there's anything that receives the economies of scale at the state level, et cetera, and balancing those two. But if I understand the explanation from last month correctly, UETN could purchase a statewide license and LEAs could buy into this process as they choose. And so this is one of those items that I think before we keep it as a hard item on this, that we really consider, should this particular 1.9 be in the WPU and allow LEAs and UETN to have this conversation where they could buy this statewide license and LEAs could buy into it. And so if my assumptions are incorrect, I'd appreciate some information on why this would be an important line item. And if not, next month I'd be prepared to ask this to be removed off of our priorities. So anyways, it's 10, 12, the non-12. And so anyways, that's the one that I would have some questions regarding.
Okay, I'll follow up with Deputy Superintendent Norman, just to make sure that we're all tracking on that and come back to you with some further details on that. Because it's just like you said, they explained it, as part of that UETN request and all that too. Even if we do remove it or on that too, I'd anticipate that it'll still come up in the legislative session as well, just based on the fact that, it's a cooperative effort between us and UETN. So, but let me get with Deputy Superintendent Norman and Sarah, and we'll come back to you. Okay, is that okay? Okay.
Board Member Lisa Cummins.
This has nothing, my question is not related to the line item, which I'm very grateful for your work that you put towards that. But I'm curious why, as the letter from Governor Herbert was added to that, when we had voted against going forward on revisioning the Common Core standards.
Sure. Yeah, I can address that. Even though we removed that item from the, at the board's direction and all that, and I'll take responsibility for this. My understanding is there was still some concerns with the calculated amount. I've been we always want to make sure that we're always tracking on it too. So if there's ever a point too, the letter, if the key takeaway from the letter is he asked us to review, not change or do all that. That's my understanding. And I think that's the reason why we wanted to put that in there, is just to make sure that. So with that, we can always look at CBAs or calculations to facilitate more of a review process than a complete, take everything down, rework it and all that too. Director Sudrith and Deputy Superintendent Norman are well aware of this too and all that too. We fully recognize it was removed, but we're always looking at all of the opportunities and advantages we have with the staff and looking at ways to calculate and see what we're doing best here. So at any time.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, I appreciate you putting that in there because it was brought up in our last board meeting and
Right.
And what was the intent in that, and so it.
Yeah, that's just for clarification.
Just clarification.
That's all.
So.
Yep.
Thank you. That's welcomed. Any further questions or comments? Seeing that this is going to come back next, this will just keep coming back.
It's a perpetual item. Well, I'd respectfully request of the board that it be a perpetual item, because between each between each board meeting that we not. Oh, man. Okay, so I need board member Nielsen's help here. We have battle assemblies and we have drills, right? So I said something wrong here, so I'm taking off this afternoon and I have my other hat on. So there's no battle. Okay. There's no battle. There's no fight. No fight. No fight. It's all peace and love. Okay, on that too. So sorry. Help me.
There will be push-ups
Okay.
later.
Yes.
But
All right.
yeah, we want that to still keep coming back.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just because there might be changes or new information from the CDC or GOMB or the LFAs that we really want to keep you informed. Okay, on that. Okay. So, I'm going to go crawl away into my office now. Army crawl.
There you go.
Yes. Low crawl.
I'm not seeing any other comment. Thank you and thank you. Oh, yes, I do now.
Sorry.
Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
I'm very sorry. I just remembered a comment that I just lost it. Another comment that I had on this is when we talked about the WPU value, we wanted to make sure that it was a minimum, that we at least, because we don't ever want to put that ceiling that says we only want 5.5 if there's extra, give it to someone else, right?
Yeah,
we want them to know that WPU is a place that is valuable and
Sure.
Please add as much as you want.
Okay, we'll do. We'll make sure we message that. And I'll configure this a little better to reflect that too, ma'am. So, thanks.
Okay. Superintendent Dixon.
I apologize, Deputy Jones, for not asking this offline, but in your conversations with GOMB, were there Was there any conversation about the board's ability to make changes? Obviously, the board can always make changes to the priority and put it out there, but in the budgeting process, can you
Yeah.
just reiterate for the boards the timeline moving forward?
Sure. So pretty much they met, being GOMB, my understanding is they met on or about October 26th. And changes at this point, as far as it goes, up to the point where the governor makes his proposal, his budget proposal to the legislature, we're pretty much closed up on that. The CDC data's in too. Now, there could be changes from the meeting that we talk about next week. So I can't speak for what might come out of that meeting. I think it will be a productive meeting and all that too. So they're on a pretty strict timeline because they do want to work towards the ultimate proposal by the governor, which typically comes out around the end of November, first part of December. So I don't anticipate any changes. If there are changes, they're probably only minor, maybe amounts, different things like that. But I will say this, that we did get kudos or what amounts to some additional love this year from the GOMB because the timeline was pretty well done. We got the business cases in and a lot of back and forth on that too, which we were really kind of rushed and all that in the last couple of years. So I appreciate them recognizing that and looking forward to the meeting next week. So if there are changes at this point, I really anticipate there'll be minor changes on that too. But remember, the governor can, by law, make adjustments to what the board proposes as far as your proposals go. So more to follow though, and that's why we respectfully request we keep it as a perpetual agenda item, so we can keep you informed accordingly.